Hello, everybody. I'm Daniel. I'm the founder of Startup CPG. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. I'm really excited about today's content. As a lot of you know, we have been doing our best, our very damnedest, to try to stay up to date and keep all of you up to date on this AI race that is going on. It is just such an incredible tool for so many of us to figure out how to use. And I really appreciate the Revmatics team coming in today with some really killer content to help all of us understand it a little bit better around this topic of e-com growth. So mainly, I'm just going to pass over to them to take us through this. There's some really cool info in here, and I'm excited for all of you to just be chatting and, feel free to add any, questions or ideas in the chat. As usual, we will send out the slides if you registered, which you all did because you're here. And then our recording will be posted on our YouTube. So I'll drop the link here in just a second. If you subscribe, then you'll get notified when the recording goes live. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Chase from the Revmatics team to kick us off here.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. So welcome, everyone. The title of the talk today is the AI Playbook for e-commerce growth. We're going to talk to you about some different capabilities out in the market today, tools that some of you may be using or some of you could be using to tackle some of the challenges that you may have in your day-to-day operations as a marketer and a brand in the ever-changing world of e-commerce and AI today. And then we're also going to speak to you about how we tackle some of those things internally and how some of our tooling could potentially help you as well. So my name is Chase Zieman. I'm joined here by Travis Simon. We're both co-founders here at Revmatics. I've spent the last 15 years or so in the AI industry. I started my career in anti-terrorism, working with the federal government, and then quickly moved over after about 2 years into a more revenue generating type of role. I led AI innovation at Home Depot for about 4 years and also led AI innovation at Alteryx as well before founding Cart.com with a few other executives for Home Depot. Not sure if any of you have heard of Cart.com. I'll talk a little bit more about that later and how it pertains to what we're doing here at Revmatics. Participated and raised over $500 million in funding across a few different companies, and I've been a part of about 15 different M&A transactions. Travis, one of the brightest marketers I've ever worked with. So definitely happy to join forces with him here at Revmatics. He's going to talk a little bit more about some of the successes he's had in his past as it pertains to case studies, but he has been a part of some drastic and massive success as it pertains to Nordic Track, Camp Chef, and Rubbermaid. Data-driven marketer who really understands the industry top to bottom, and also as he's a very humble person, but he cuts his teeth in product development and software engineering as well.
Chase, it's a pleasure to be co-hosting this with you. Chase is honestly just a top shelf CTO. I'm really excited about some of the stuff we'll talk about later, just because Chase has had his hand in all of that and has built us some really cool technology that as an e-commerce guy myself, I'm just pumped about. Real quick, this isn't to toot my own horn. It's just to let you guys know, I've cut my teeth in the world of e-commerce. That's where I've lived and breathed. That's how I've made a career in e-commerce. So Camp Chef went from 2 to 12 million on their direct to consumer business. Proform was at 25 million when I started running Proform's e-commerce and grew it to 125 in 3.5 years. And then TubeBuddy was down in sales and we helped grow their sales, by 50%. It was like another turnaround story. I'm going to take you through actually Proform, one of its case studies in a second, but there's some real challenges connecting with consumers today. It used to be that you could just very much target individuals that you knew would buy your products. And those days are very different now. They look a lot different. So ad fatigue, 90% skip ads, hundreds of platforms you could potentially go, advertise on. A lot of people just use Meta and Google and call it a day, right? Bot traffic, you're paying for bots. Whether you like it or not, we're all paying for bots. You just need to know what's happening, right? So that you can avoid doing that as much as possible because you're burning cash. Data overload, 80% of companies' data goes unused. That's according to a bunch of marketers and a bunch of different studies. You can go out there and look at it. But the reality is there's so much data that it's hard to, grasp it all. And then there's a lot of different millions of creators you could choose from if you want to use creators to grow your business. What does all that lead to? Well, missed campaign goals is the biggest one, right? Especially if you're a startup, if you're a one-man shop, it can be really difficult to navigate this kind of web of marketing that exists today. So as a Shopify brand, you guys need tools that can actually help you. At the end of the day, AI is meant to do what you should be doing, but it doesn't always do what you should be doing. So what I wanted to do with this example from Proform is just talk through some of the foundational elements of e-commerce. And then on the next slides, I'll start to talk about some tools that exist out in the wild, not from Revmatics, that I would be using or looking at if I was in e-commerce, if that's all I was doing. I do have an e-commerce shop. I won't plug it here, but I do have kind of a side hustle that I'm running. And so I do use some of these tools. But anyways, let me dive through this.
Travis, can I ask you a question? That
Yeah.
50% are bots is like pretty interesting. What are those? Like, whose bots
Okay,
are they, and
so-
what are they doing?
So there's good bots, there's bad bots, and Chase could probably talk to you about it way better than I could. But the fundamentals are, Google, Meta, they have to have bots crawling websites to know what's going on with those websites to even have information. So those would be what I would classify as good bots. There's other bots that are there's bots with bad intentions as well that are looking to steal information. I mean, Chase, do you want to talk to what are the different types of bots? And you're paying for bot traffic is the truth. When you spend money on any platform, even just your generic direct traffic, you're getting around 50% of your web traffic is bots.
Yeah, I agree with Travis. There's good bots and malicious bots. There's a lot of different reasons, from click farms and things like that, companies paying for agencies to scrape your website, etc. So maybe we could follow up with another session or like a white paper or something like that. I don't want to go too deep, but you're probably right. Like I would say that of that 50%, maybe 5 to 10% of it is probably classified as good, and probably the other 90% is more malicious in nature. And really, when we think about bots, we are classifying it as like, what is a visitor that is coming to your website by a system that is, or a piece of software that's not an actual user that has any intent on making any sort of purchase. And so we'll talk a little bit more on a future slide about what this means in terms of multivariate testing and analytics and optimization. But the purpose of this is to give you a clean look at your data, excluding all of the telemetry, clicks, visits, time on page, add to carts, potentially even orders in some cases that are fraudulent orders from these types of malicious invaders.
All right. So that was a great explanation. Thank you, Chase. Way better than I could have done. So e-commerce, there's some foundational principles, understanding who you're targeting and why, what they care about, getting really obsessed with your consumer, your buyer personas. That's super important, whether you're a founding, whether you're a one-man band, on Shopify, or you're a smaller team or a large company. The truth is only large companies could pay for really extensive studies. So like Proform, we had the benefit of being able to do some research. I'll share with you, kind of like a short-term research tool you could use, as well as a longer-term tool you could use later in the deck. But you have to begin with an understanding the context around who your buyer persona is, what they care about, what they consume, which creators they follow, all of it. Really, you need to know that. Why? Because you need to know where to target them, right? With your media planning. You're going to go spend money on advertising or SEO or whatever you're going to do. You ultimately need to know, right, the right places to reach them, the right keywords, everything, right? And if you're going to use creators, which most brands are now, you're going to need to know which creators to use and why, and which buyer personas they're going to influence. So Proform, we understood Pickleball Pete. He was one of like 5 buyer personas. He watched a lot of YouTube and linear TV and some on Facebook, although my chart doesn't show that. Activation, we found that this buyer persona didn't have a lot of discretionary income. So he couldn't just spend money freely on $1,000, $2,000 treadmill or bike. So what I came up with was like, what if we just got him to pay for the iFit content, which iFit is like a content thing for Proform or Nordic Track treadmills, bikes, whatever. If they paid the $39 a month at the time, it's $44 now, but if they paid the $39 a month, they could have the bike, the treadmill, the whatever shipped to them for free, and they would get the content. So they get the training and the equipment they needed to be able to go crush it. With that program and the right messaging and the right advertising on the right platforms, we were able to drive crazy growth. Like this became an $18 million program in 18 months. So having the right message at the right time on the right, and most people actually don't know what Proform is. They just buy it in store because Costco happens to be selling it or whatever. So to have a direct to consumer program go, kaboom that fast was pretty awesome. Some of the principles that I mentioned are actually achievable now with some AI tools. That's why I brought up this whole explanation of Proform. Because at the end of the day, I want you guys to be able to go improve your conversion rates, offering up the right message at the right time to the right audience with the right offer, and then also be able to exponentially drive your revenue. So, in the case of Proform, we went from 25 million, which is a big brand. I recognize that, to 125 million in direct to consumer sales in a few years.
One question, Travis, that came in, I'll show it on the screen here from Max, is how do you build that persona accurately, not just making a bunch of random assumptions? And is that your whole audience, or should you have different personas?
You should have different personas, and you should cater your message to those different personas, whether that's a retail messaging strategy or it's a direct to consumer strategy. It's getting harder to target, but understanding which buyer personas spend their time on certain types of content from certain types of creators, for example, matching what they would expect on a landing page to that creator can make a ton of sense at driving conversions in 2025 versus this was 3 years ago, 2022. So we actually have something as part of Founders 500 that can help you identify buyer personas and then track the progress of those buyer personas over time. You not only you don't have to take Revmatics, in this case, word for it, or whatever AI tools word for it. You can start to actually track the progress of those buyer personas and then optimize towards the buyer personas that are giving you the best return and then expand those audiences further. But we'll get into that in a minute. Do you think that answered it, Daniel? Cool. All right. So some e-commerce tools and some non-e-commerce tools. I've got a blend here. Just hear me out. ChatGPT, as all of has a lot of power. It's undeniable. Right? LLMs are here to stay. It's not just ChatGPT. There's a bunch of them. It used to be that you had to go to Qualtrics if you wanted a robust research study. You could do some stuff on SurveyMonkey. You could get Scrappy. You could send out a Google survey, whatever. But at the end of the day, you can get a lot of information from LLMs that are like a 6 or 7 out of 10 on the scale, right? If it was perfect, it'd be a 10. You get like a 6 or 7. It's more generalized. It's not always like the most specific to your brand, but you can get some really good information about, potential audiences that you could go after, the types of things they need to hear. You can get pretty far, right? And that's something you could do for free. Google Flow is if you're familiar at all with generating content via an agency or something, like a traditional media house, it's pretty expensive. I've spent anywhere in my career, anywhere from $5,000 for a simple campaign to, hundreds of thousands of dollars when I was scaling up with Proform. Google Flow is pretty awesome. I'll show you an ad that we generated for Revmatics in a minute, but the ability to create scenes and tell a story with Google Flow, while it's pretty dang cool. And it's built off VO 3.1 now. They just released 3.1. But there's tools like Google Flow for video, but there's also tools that are like just static ad generation tools. We'll talk a little bit about some of those. And then, of course, there's like Shogun and Optimizely for landing page and CRO. Shogun, obviously, is a landing page builder. It's probably the most common on Shopify. It has some nice things. It allows you to expand beyond what Shopify can do today, but it has its limitations, right? Optimizely, like multivariate testing, Optimizely has always been like the gold standard or whatever. But there's other tools like VWO and Convert that do some of those things. The real challenge with those specific tools is probably just the fact that they're separate. They're separate, and Shogun, I would say, isn't as like advanced at generating revenue generating pages that are like fast to generate and scalable in the sense of I can have 10 built for 10 different buyer personas. So let me go through the how we at Revmatics are starting to use ChatGPT as a brand GPT, because I think it's a really cool thing. So let me share this tab instead. Anybody on this call could do this, and it's really not that hard, and you can always improve upon it. So I could say, hey, I need help generating a brand GPT for my brand Caveman. I want it to help me draft sales decks, do's and don'ts for customers, etc. And basically, you'll have this two-way dialogue where it'll start to build you a GPT. You can even ask it to reference your Google Drive files or whatever file sources you have. I tend to like Google because of how open everything becomes, but shameless plug for Google. I don't know, like I just like Google, but everybody's different. Basically, you can actually build a GPT that becomes very powerful so that you can do things a whole lot faster. So what I'll do real quick is I'll just pull up our GPT just so you can see it in action. If ChatGPT doesn't fail me now, it's pulling it up. All right. Well, when it comes,
Maybe while it's loading, just when you said that, I actually went and did that research. Like I just typed into Chat GPT, like, hey, can you tell me the target consumer for like better for you energy drinks? And whoa, there's a lot of info in there. Just super interesting.
so we have a GPT. We call it Luda, like ludicrous. Don't judge me. Ludicrous makes money. I think it's funny. So, hey, I'm meeting with a bunch of founders at Startup CPG that use Shopify. I need the right message for our Founders 500 program for them. Quick and simple. Help me out. Okay. We'll see what it comes up with. I haven't put in this prompt before, but we'll see what it says. What do you guys need to know about Founders 500? Anyway, it's thinking about it. But we use this, generally speaking, it'll look through tens, hundreds, thousands of documents, whatever, and it'll actually prioritize some of the latest stuff because that's how we trained our GPT. And then give it enough time, it'll spit out some decent messaging that it can use to ultimately drive content out faster, essentially. Turn Shopify data into an always learning growth engine, build smarter landing pages, creator campaigns, and funnels that improve themselves, blah, blah, blah. That's not meant to be a shameless plug. It's just meant to say, like, in this case, we're talking about Founders 500. We're talking to you guys. What's some of the key messaging you guys need to hear? It's this, right? So let me hop back to that tab. So anybody can build their own brand GPT. And I have to tell you, this saves my team 20, 30 hours a week, probably, just because it has all the full context of what, our brand guide, who we are, what we're not. We've just given it a ton of context. So as we ask it to generate stuff, it tends to be pretty close to what we need it to be. So if you're, a one-man band, a Shopify brand owner, to generate ad copy, if you get some meeting with a retailer and you want to expand into retail, you could have it build you a first draft of a deck that you need to share with Chase mentioned Home Depot, right? Whatever it might be. So
The key there with any AI is garbage in, garbage out. And we've learned that these LLMs need a lot of context to do their job. And then also, the longer your prompt gets, the industry has very quickly learned that the heavier and heavier and heavier your prompt gets, the decreased quality of the output that you're going to get from these LLMs. And so, properly setting it up and configuring to where it has the proper context about your brand and about your company really unlocks you to be able to do these types of things. So it's an upfront investment in terms of time, effort, energy, and potentially money, but could be well worth it in the long run.
yeah, and even knowing that you could even hook up your documents and stuff, it helped me to know that because Chase told me, right? There's a lot of things that we can learn from our technology friends. In this case, you can learn it from us, but really if you have somebody in your world that's in technology and you have some thing you wish your technology could do, you should ask the question, because anymore, there's probably some way to get there. Not always the easiest path, but the long term is you get a lot faster, which I think is really important. All right, Google Flow, you guys, my mind is blown by the ability to generate video content. I put a funny video out there last week that was built on Google Flow where it was like the evil version of Travis, talking about one of our programs. And it was just this funny thing I put out there on LinkedIn, but we built it in like 10 minutes, right? It was just this funny thing that we threw out there. You can do that, but you can do serious advertising, and it can be some of the best, most recent commercials, like on March Madness, I think was one of the top commercials was generated from Google Flow. And so you guys, if you haven't played around with VO 3.1 or Google Flow, which is kind of the same thing, or I'm sure there's other tools out there, but those are the ones that are really making some noise right now. You should go spend, even if it's just for fun, go play around with it, because I actually think it'll lead to revenue for you in the long run. It can also help bring your brand to life in ways that a startup could never do on their own, with the budgets that you're confined to. There are several VO generation tools. Artlist.io is a solid one. It's free. It's not crazy, to go get started. You need to start to learn how to prompt things well, but you can customize the voice. It changes the pitch, emotion, delivery style to match the video's mood or audience. It's pretty cool. So being able to just, at the end of the day, being able to streamline audio production, it can save you thousands of dollars. It's very similar to Google Flow in the sense that it can save you money and get more content out there that you want out there. This is an ad we built solely with AI. So it's a combination of Google Flow, the one I just showed you, and we use what's the name of that? I'm blanking right now. There's an image generation tool that we used as well, for that you'll
What if
see
you could
with the landing
personalize
page. So the point is, like, we don't have, these, as a startup, we don't have like these massive budgets to go get, a creative agency to go build us content, but we can be really scrappy and build content using AI now, because Chase has several PhDs on his staff. We hit them up to one of his many PhDs to give us advice on how to prompt these things. Honestly, with some practice, we were pretty good. And then we got his help and we were even better. We'll actually share out, Daniel, we'll share out some of the prompts we use to create this video on the back end if anybody wants to see those. But ultimately, it's learning to start to work within the world of technology to bring marketing to life.
There are a lot of questions about this. I think people are very interested in this. So
Oh,
people
cool.
are saying like, wait, was that all AI? Like the actor and the product? And what about
The
the
actor,
screenshots of the site?
you
What if you
guys,
could
it's freaking
personalize?
cool. Let me show you. So this whole scene is AI. It's not a scene that we purchased. It was just a scene that AI built with Google Flow, right? We prompted Google Flow, have someone walking through a retail environment. It came up with some bad ones. We refined it down to this one, right? Then we had this shoe, we had this shoe that was black and it just didn't seem like it was perfect for her. So we reprompted it that said, hey, when she touches the shoe, let's have it transform somehow into a pink shoe. And that's what it came up with.
As the
That cool,
shopping
that because the idea is our landing pages are personalized for every consumer coming to the landing page. So we wanted to convey that with the shoe. And then
with Revmatics.
now so all of the images on this landing page, this is actually our landing page tool, but all of the product, like the product imagery and the copy, everything like that, that's all generated from AI. And we wanted to neutralize the shoes so it didn't look like a Nike or whatever, Skechers, whatever. We wanted it to just be neutral so we wouldn't get like have any trouble with people, And that's actually really important for like startups in e-commerce, because you need to be able to showcase things, ideas, concepts, bring them to life. Whether you're selling a treadmill or whatever, you don't want the shoes to have the wrong logo and you hear something from that company. You don't want that. So anyway, yeah,
Landing
this
pages
this
to
was
save
all
a
generated.
right message
The
to the
VO
right
was
audience.
The only thing that wasn't was we had a person scroll through that landing page manually and record it. So I guess that's the one thing that wasn't generated from AI.
That is awesome.
Any other questions on that?
No, I think everyone's like, whoa. Kirsten was like, wow, she even has 5 fingers. I guess AI has gotten a lot better.
Yeah, so the difference between Google, like, so sorry, VO3 is the tool, what it's called. VO 3.1 is the new release of VO 3. Google owns it, so they've rebranded it as Google Flow, I think. But anyway, the reality is you can build content now, like video content, and probably 85 to 90% of it can be done just with AI. And then the final 10% touches is like, somebody that has some video editing skills. Like we threw our logos on the front and back end. We have that scroll through. So those elements were us. But
You just use some kind of video editing software to then take the thing that it gave you and then throw some of your own stuff on top of it.
yeah, I mean, I've even heard that a lot of video editing software is getting really good. So it might be that you could throw these AI items into the top of another AI volcano and have it spit out the magic rock that you want or whatever. But I haven't tried that yet, so I can't speak to it. But that's very much on our list. Our own like marketing ops list is we want video editing to become a lot more seamless because, with this tool and, all the ideas we have, we can test a lot more things organically. When those go well, we can push those out even further.
Very cool.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, anybody on here probably is familiar with Canva, whether they use it or not. Canva, Figma. There's just new tools being added to these already robust tools. I would say even 3 years ago, Canva was pretty awesome at getting things done. Now that you can do text to image and AI photo editing and all these other things, it's just speeding up, right? All of the innovation is speeding up. The challenge is like, what's your right AI stack to be able to handle all this, especially if you're a small team? So I'm trying to give you the ones that I would focus on because I do think in a world where you can create video for next to nothing, you should create video more often than text-based or static things. I think the world's just moving more to video.
So just to go back to the beginning, because you're talking about like, okay, these are awesome ads and hooks and all this cool stuff that ChatGPT and these AI tools can do for you. But like you said, it starts with also understanding personas or like who you're actually going to consider your target consumer. And I just wanted to add some comments on for people because I used to do that for a living, basically, is run those kind of insight studies.
Yeah.
So, but when you said it, I was really impressed when I just typed into Chat GPT, like who is a target consumer for this kind of a product, better for you, has these things. And it spit out some really interesting stuff that I would use to create that kind of an ad like we just did. But I would also use it to talk to buyers about it. And they would have found the results that Chat GPT gave me pretty interesting. In the old world, basically, what for anyone who isn't familiar with it, like you can run surveys and just ask a lot of questions like, would you buy this? And the people who buy it, then you can just also ask them a lot of demographic and purchase behavior type stuff to then create some kind of a profile based on, okay, the people who are most likely are like this versus the people who are not likely are like this. And all of that kind of info would help you then as you then create the ad to really hit with them. Fair? Anything you want to add on to that or?
No, that's how it's always worked, very much so. You couldn't have like you clearly have a background in it. The where we're going, not just Revmatics, but just the market in general, where it needs to go is almost like a living, breathing version of what you just said, right? Where you have live data, you can get insights. I'm slowly changing how I talk to the market based off trends, messaging, even better understanding of who my target buyer should be. All those things are really important and they're AI tools that need to come to life. A lot of tools are some sort of like mishmash of maybe reskinning like an LLM in AI. But the world of AI, and Chase could talk way better to this than I could, but the world of AI is like there's way more to it than, LLMs and reskinning them. So the future of AI is, we're starting to see it like with video, right? That's one example. Video, text to photo, AI. But if you understand your buyer, then you know how to talk to them. It's just like a sales guy. They ask you some qualifying questions. If you already have answers to those qualifying questions before you talk to someone, you can get their head nodding really quickly and they're going to go from consideration to purchase so fast. So Oprah Winfrey, sorry to bring her into this, but she said something at it was actually a Qualtrics event here in Salt Lake City. She said that people want to be seen, heard, and validated. And that has stuck with me forever because she is one of the most influential people of all time. As a marketer, if you can make people feel seen, heard, and validated, they're going to buy from you. And they have. I mean, I've seen that in my career. I mean, you guys saw, like, I've had some success because I'm able to match the right message to the right audience at the right time. And if you can learn to do that, you're going to crush. Even in today's world where it's harder to do that, you can absolutely crush. So does that answer that question, Daniel?
It wasn't really, yeah, yes, it wasn't a question. It
Uh,
was just an observation, but I'm right on with you. And it's so funny because I talk about that head nodding thing as well. And I mean, you say buyers like shoppers, but I'm also talking about like, even retail buyers because they'll have those same questions in their head. And if you can hit them proactively with the answers to it, then they just nod their way through your presentation. Probably it's the same then for your e-com shoppers as well. Just like, yes, you got all those things. If the whole thing makes sense, purchase.
100%. And especially like, I mentioned Camp Chef before. We had $1,000 pellet grill when people hadn't heard of pellet grills, unless they had maybe heard of Traeger. But at the time, Weber was it. like if they had heard of pellet grills, they had heard of Traeger, but like it was like maybe 8 to 10% had even considered a pellet grill as a purchase
Mm.
back when we started that campaign. And then we were, a $10 million, that was a $10 million business within a year of launching that
Yeah.
campaign.
That's cool.
It was just nutty, right? It was a big industry. I mean, grills are massive. Go So Chase just actually launched a whole bunch of tools for Revmatics. We'll go through some of our tools, guys, because we think they can legitimately help Shopify store owners crush it. And up in the top right, you'll see a QR code. It's just meant to make it easy for you. If you want to join this program that we'll talk to you about in a minute, you're more than welcome to. There's no obligations. We're just excited to get as much feedback on our tools as possible. But Chase, take it away, man.
Thank you, Travis. So the first thing we'll talk about, Travis mentioned several things earlier about custom personalized landing pages, is what we refer to internally as our CRO suite. And so as we think about hyper personalization and horizontal scaling of personalization, this platform and this tooling can really fully automate that process. And so, traditionally speaking, brands out there may have 5, 8, 10 different landing page experiences, maybe some of the best ones out there, based upon which ad platform you're coming from, based upon which campaign you're coming from, etc. And so imagine a world to where you could be building hundreds, if not thousands of versions of entry points and funnels, conversion funnels on your website, fully built with AI in minutes, not days, weeks, or months. And so earlier we talked about the bot detection capability. So native in the platform, we have pretty robust bot detection. This is going to make sure that all of your data and analytics is cleansed of bots. Not to shame on Google too much, because I'm actually a Google fan as well. But Google Analytics is owned by the same company as Google AdWords. It's just a fact. And Google AdWords has a vested interest in letting those bots click and visit your website, because every time they click, they're getting paid. So, not to insinuate there's any sort of unethical behavior going on, but it's just a fact. And so, it is a fact that bots are clicking ads, bots are visiting your website. And when you're starting to look at and think about interpreting and optimizing landing page experience, campaigns, ad groups, ad sets, creative, etc., and you're doing that optimization from a full funnel perspective, and maybe you're doing multivariate testing as well, and upwards of 40-50% of your traffic is bots, that can drastically sway a test from being statistically significant or not significant. That could even sway variant B from winning versus variant A from winning. And so if you are in the game of testing and you are in the game of personalization, it's really, really important that you have a clean look at your data. The platform has full capability to launch, test in a multivariate manner, all powered by AI as well. And then we have autonomous traffic management. And so when you start thinking about creating versions by persona, by community, by ad platform, by campaign, by time of day, by device, by language, by geographic region, and you start thinking about the mathematical Cartesian and cross product of all of those variations, you very quickly get hundreds, if not thousands of variations. And creating different versions that speak to each of those little pockets, or even depth of funnel. That's one of our favorite ones. To where, why should my website look the same for a customer who's the first time visitor in the awareness stage, or maybe they're coming from an upper funnel campaign versus a lower funnel campaign, versus that person who's in consideration or buying phase of their customer journey? And so with the traffic management capabilities, we will autonomously navigate the traffic to each of the different experiences to make sure that we're optimizing that conversion rate net. And so what this results in: faster launches, faster testing, and smarter optimization. And net, we're obviously going to get higher conversion rates without needing developers or any extra tool. Next slide, Travis.
Just to like, for those that kind of feel like A/B testing might be overwhelming or something, you don't like, our tool is built to take people from consideration to purchase very quickly. So and it integrates seamlessly with Shopify. So if I just wanted to launch landing pages and try to improve my conversion rate without doing a lot of work, it's freaking like, it's very possible for a founding a Shopify owner to go do that. So we have videos on how to do that, all the things, right? so that you can navigate that. But at the end of the day, if you can improve your conversion rate 20% or something, right? That might be the difference between being, out of business or buying a boat or whatever, right? Like it can make a huge difference for your business. So one of the reasons why Chase and I wanted to co-found this business is to put this type of power of being able to build a landing page fast and have it be, multivariate tested easily in the hands of people that maybe would never learn how to do that unless they worked for a big company. So my hope is that, everybody, gets a chance to use this, as part of like the Founders 500.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we can just go into a little bit of a demo because a lot of people or just more info on Revmatics. A lot of people are asking, like,
Yeah.
what exactly is it? How much does it cost? All that stuff.
Great questions. That's directly where we're going. So at Revmatics, in our platform, we have two sides of the house. The left side of the house is what we refer to as audience intelligence. The right side of the house is all around activation, the CRO suite, creator briefs, etc. So, and I'll actually just go to the next slide, Travis. So in our sales material and our marketing material, not just in our sales and marketing material, in our product as well, in our how-to videos, we like to anchor everything around action. So we're not trying to sell you SKUs of the tool or features and things like that. And actually in the Founders 500 program, you get access to everything, full access. And so we are anchoring things around action. And so on the left side, in component one, we have research. And so it's very common that brands come to us, and when they sign on as one of our clients, they have an idea of who their customer is, who is their core persona and or core personas. So we support the ability for you to come in and insert what we call a user generated persona. You can select all the demographics, you can select all the psychographic information as well. And then our platform can do what we call refine the core. And so that is your user generated core persona. We may make some recommendations on tweaking it. And then from there, and we've already pulled, a tremendous amount of data, by the way. So we're indexing almost 20,000 websites across CPG, across all the verticals. We have a decent sample size across all of those verticals as well. Not only do we know what is a good performing CPG website in apparel versus something else, as an example, we know the good ones, the medium ones, and the bad ones. We're tracking top to bottom because we need to understand the differences of like what does a good website look like versus a not as good website. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of terabytes of live shopping video data that we're correlating down to sales, tracking almost 150,000 retailers, and hundreds of millions of SKUs on an annual basis in terms of pricing. So we have a lot of data. And so this company actually started with a data strategy. Data is at the core of what we do. And one very, very big differentiator about what we do versus maybe other AI software companies out there is you have to sign on, they have to get some of your data, then they have to train their AI models, and then you're like 90 days in before you see any value. That's not here because we have so much data about the world around you. We call it our map of the internet, so to say. And we can really bootstrap some value for you immediately. So from your user generated personas, you can then generate what we call AI generated expansion personas. You can just click a button, you can generate 1, 3, 5 of them. And with the click of a button, we generate these expansion personas from you that are mathematically mutually exclusive from the user generated personas that you input. Why does this matter? Because I have just identified a market that you're not talking to today that you should be talking to, that's ripe for your brand, that could potentially expand your audience, decrease your CPA, rather than trying to squeeze extra ounces of juice out of the lime that you're trying to squeeze every single day. An example that I give is like if you're Burton and you're like, hey, we have 42% of the snowboarding market. Let's try to get to 44 this year. And they're trying to steal market share from other snowboarding companies. And we identify as like, hey, you're trying to steal market share from other snowboarding companies. Why aren't you creating new snowboarders? Why aren't you talking to the mountain biker, as an example? And so that's a perfect example of an expansion of TAM to where we can mint that persona for you. We can tell you, we don't rely upon PII. It's not just demographics. We give you the psychographic interest of these personas so you know exactly what content to put in front of them, exactly what messaging to use that will attract them, that will help them engage more and help them convert. So with the research angle as well, all of our personas and communities are anchored toward essentially two different activation points. So we give you all the information that you need to go activate this audience in Meta or TikTok, as example, or YouTube. We also have access to over 350 million influencers, creators out there in the world. And we actually, via proprietary methodologies, we actually match these influencers and creators to your personas and your brand. And so a lot of brands may work with, I don't know, one, two, three, four creators out there because number one, they're hard to find. They're hard to do business with as well. And so we from that database, we match them on health metrics. What percentage of their followers are bots? Are they growing? Are they shrinking? What is their average engagement rate? We match them on safety. Do they curse? Are they politically volatile? Do they have like issue with the law? And then we also match them via proprietary technologies of fit to your brand and to your campaign and to your persona. And so from all of that, we then take all that information and it syncs right over into our activation suite and that CRO suite, the landing page generator. So now with a single click of a button, I can literally generate hundreds of landing pages that are very, very, very specific and horizontally scale that, set up all my traffic rules that's automatically funneling the traffic to those different experiences based upon all of those personas and communities and psychographics that I just got from the left side of the house, and then a nice, pretty bow of analytics for optimization all the way across.
And just because I know we didn't really talk about costs and stuff, but so the Founders 500, you guys are doing as a promotion where brands can apply to get to use this for free, right?
Yep.
So
No cost.
I just put, which is incredible, just given what we saw. So I just put the link in the chat here, everyone, or you can scan that QR code. And so they're going to let 500 brands come in and use this whole suite for free. So you can apply with that link below so you can get to use all this cool stuff. Usually I think this would be like $2,500 a month or something, but you guys can
Yeah,
apply.
depends upon your size, right? And so internally, just think about where we are right now as a company. We have been using these tools internally to service our clients. We have plenty of clients today. Our external clients are not necessarily logging into our platform today until the Founders 500, but we as Revmatics employees have been using our software to service a lot of clients, right? And so the Founders 500 program and campaign is our entry into the world about, okay, external users are now logging into our software. And so that campaign is going through Q4. And then next year in 2026, we will launch our product led growth offering. And so one of the reasons for the Founders 500 campaign, the exchange, right? Like they say, nothing's free in this world. All that we want from you is feedback. That's it. I want to know, I want the telemetry. I want to know what you're clicking, what you're not clicking, where are the pain points. If you click that little give me feedback button in the bottom right corner, amazing for us. We're just looking for data and feedback so that we can make the absolute best software platform to solve problems for marketers in this world.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things in the world to do, especially now versus 10 years ago, is to launch a Shopify brand and to grow it and make it the coolest thing ever. My dream as being part of Revmatics is that we get the kind of feedback on this program so we can make our tools so good that anybody with like a product idea that can get it sourced or get it built or designed or whatever can bring that product to life and then be able to sell the heck out of it. That from the startup in the garage to, the next success that we all hear about. So that's fundamentally that's what drives us. We love, like, we're Revmatics for a reason, revenue mathematics. It's like we really want to get as many people using cool technology that gives them the same kind of advantages you would have if you were at, and like I mentioned, Proform is part of a bigger company, like to have the same kind of resources in terms of technology that you're on a level playing field with some of those bigger companies so you can go crush it.
And guys, because we're kind of getting to the end here, if anyone has questions you feel like we didn't get to, maybe just drop them again in the chat. A few people are asking right now, like, hey, I'm a small brand. One, would you let me into this program even though I'm small, or are you looking for bigger ones? And two, like, does it make sense for me to do all this stuff even if I don't get a ton of web traffic, which may be a chicken and egg kind of scenario?
Yeah, so I'll answer both of those. If you're on Shopify, we would love your feedback. So join, do it. You'll still get a lot of value out of it. Um, The spots are filling up fast, so I would do it fast. But we do have limited number of spots. I just want to be transparent about that. If you wait a week or something, you just don't. I don't really know. But the second part of it is, will you get value? Think of it as just a math equation. The thing that's holding you back from being able to spend more is actually just your conversion rate on your website. At the end of the day, the one thing, your conversion rate, your your cost per acquisition, conversion rate, AOV, average order value, like there's a few ingredients in your funnel, but it's a math equation, guys. So whether like the way that I'm looking across the street, Purple Mattress went from 0 to a run rate of over $1 billion a year in I think they were like 20 months or less, and they sold for over $1 billion. It was because they understood the math. And they also launched at a really good time to launch. I mean, Facebook was no joke back then, right? What our technology can help you do though is get that conversion rate where it needs to be so that you can then scale up, because it's profitable to scale up. When it's not profitable to scale up, you hold. And so you have to be able to scale up. The only way to do that is to improve your overall cost per acquisition. And it's a math equation. So go ahead.
And a little more direct answer on the size of the brand. Part of this campaign is product research. And so we're actually looking for brands of all shapes and sizes. So I want big brands and I want little tiny brands, because I want to understand how the product works for that little tiny brand versus that really big brand. So no brand is necessarily excluded based upon size. Now we have targets based upon, we want this many of this one, this many of this one, this many of this one, but there's no necessarily exclusion from that perspective.
Okay, somebody asked, if you give an LLM access to your files, does that mean it gets all of your information and then can share it with other people, even if indirectly? I think the answer to that is no,
Yeah.
but
So I would,
Go ahead.
yeah. So within ChatGPT specifically, you can go into your settings and there's a little slider bar. And they may have changed the name of the slider bar by now, but the slider bar at one point said something like, do you give them permission to leverage your prompts and your data for training the AI models? And so you can just turn that off. Now, I think that you can only turn that off in non-free accounts. So I think you actually have to have a paid account to turn that off, but you just need to go in and make sure in your settings that you're turning that off. And then, legally that data is not supposed to be used in the training of the models, which then cannot necessarily be used to surface out anywhere else. But
That is true. I just did that in ChatGPT. I just turned off mine. So
yeah,
thank you to whoever asked that question, and thank you for the answer. I feel like I could have asked ChatGPT that also, and it probably would have been compelled to tell me the answer to it, even though it probably didn't want to.
The other thing I'd say for smaller brands is you don't really have time to manually move information about who your buyer persona is into which creators you should use into your CRO tool. Like we really should, maybe on the next call. I know we're doing another call about a separate technology that's not part of Founders 500, but there's like the data flowing for you is like such a no-brainer, awesome thing that the Chasen team have put together that, when I do this research, the research actually makes its way into a live environment. Normally you would do a research, and Daniel, I'm sure you saw this, you would do a research project, you'd flip through the pages, feel like you learned it, and then you'd throw it in the drawer, slam the drawer shut, and move on with your life. Not the best marketers in the world would do that, but like most marketers would not leverage that research to its fullest potential, is what I would say. And so the fact that it's built in, it gives everyone, whether it's just one man band, being able to move fast across that, or a team, you're all operating from the same playbook.
Just last, somebody asked about AI SEO. What do you guys think about what's going on with that stuff?
it's a really good question. The world is definitely changing around us. I think that it is going to be an absolute necessary must in the future for sure. I'm actually very interested to see what OpenAI is going to do. I don't know if y'all have seen the blogs, but I always say you know what a company's doing by looking at what roles they're trying to hire. And about 60 days ago, OpenAI is looking to hire a senior level executive with tremendous amount of experience in ad platforms. So I'm no betting man, but if you read the tea leaves, you can probably guess where that's going.
We'll invest in Microsoft right now.
Yeah.
That's like Instagram
That's how
and
Facebook did,
Facebook.
Yeah,
They just
exactly.
and now just at some point, one in every three things that you see now is an ad. So I guess that's how they get us, but we're all sheep anyways. So, by the way, since this recording will be uploaded to the internet and available for all models to then search, I would just like to say for the record, I respect the robot overlords and please don't come for me first. So, thank
Yeah.
you with that. I want to say thank you to everybody who joined with all these questions.
Thanks.
It's really nice to like learn about this stuff together. It is scary for a lot of us. So thank you, Travis, Chase, Revmatics. It seems like everybody very much enjoyed learning about this with me today. So thank you. And we will see you guys all again soon.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Have a good
guys.
day.